What do you think defines art? Is it the most complex piece? Is it something that should be in a museum? Because when I think about art, I think about something that someone makes, something that has a ton of passion behind it, no matter how it looks, no matter the medium. And despite its appearance, Fist of the Borstar fits the bill entirely.
What?
You might be asking, what the heck am I talking about? Good question. Basically, Fist of the Borstar is what happens when someone, that someone being Lycan Johns, or Jones, takes the already completely nonsensical and surreal garfielf memes by Pilot Red Sun, and instead twists them into huge, melodramatic parody of 80s shonen anime. Fist of the North Star being a huge influence. It's really hard to describe this, and you might be wondering how I'm able to find anything that's good about something that is literally scribbled together in MS Paint. Well, look at it like this. Borstar is art. Despite the medium, despite the crudeness, it's art. It's all because of Lycan. Early on, you kinda get the idea that Lycan is talented, but he's just making stuff look shitty on purpose. But there's something about the pictures that he makes while he's doing this that just shows you that there's more to it. The instances of shading, the realistic-like bodies, people look up and down and have full bodies move, and there's some actually very nice shots. It's messy for sure, and some can barely even call it animation, but you can tell that there's ambition. The story is basically Garfielf is the villain who uses the ancient hidden martial arts of Lazanga to take over the world and become king of the Sunday Funnies. John fights back for the sake of this and to avenge Odie, who he thinks is killed. For something that literally moves at like 3 frames per second, it's legitimately not hard to get invested in this. It's not going to win any awards for writing, at least on an objective standpoint, but Lycan's goal was to make something that people could really feel emotional depth and just have a reason to care about, and he passed this with flying colors. When Marmaduke, Dilbert, and Charlie Brown all sacrifice themselves just so John can defeat Garfield, it feels real. Because immediately after, we don't just get another episode, we get backstories introducing characters like Marmaduke's wife, who later becomes a pivotal character. Episodes like this chronicle the character's origins, and in this case Marmaduke, who comes to recruit Dilbert and Charlie Brown to help John's cause. But you feel bad the whole time, because you know their fate. I don't care about the medium. Seeing this picture of Marmaduke and his wife saying what we now know are their final goodbyes to each other. Both of them are yellow, shadows cast to a bold sunset. It legitimately gets you. Everything just clicks. Marmaduke tries to get Calvin to help the cause, but he refuses. His stand, as in JoJo, is Hobbs, and I know it sounds stupid, but it fits because Hobbs was really only active in Calvin's imagination. So in that respect, a lot of these character nuances are very faithful. Seeing the hard shading right here on Marmaduke's wife looking at the purple sky, late into the night, knowing her husband won't return. Again, it tugs on the heartstring. And don't get me started on Charlie Brown's side story, Footlap of Carnage, where Charlie Brown ends up giving his last life energy to John once he's beheaded and about to pass on. The writing hits deepest with this line, "I was never destined for greatness anyway." Everything about this the Borstar in general, the experience that Lycan made is about experimentation. Honestly, if you were to get into this now, I could understand why you would skip season 1, or at least some of it. A lot of it is admittedly filler, but it's important to realize that aside from it taking less than an hour to fully get invested into the story, you can see Lycan do more ambitious things with sound editing and art. He even experiments with the medium that he uses to tell this crazy story, even going for different art styles or even doing something traditional. Looking at all of this in order will show more and more growth, and if you're an artist, I think it's pivotal to look at and appreciate what's being done over time. The Lab of Carnage is something I would definitely recommend if you're on the fence. I think it's decent enough on its own, and if you don't want to get into Borstar lore, you could come in and leave and you should be satisfied. I think all the points that I make are evident in Lab of Carnage, even though this is not the peak of Borstar at all. You get introduced to the premise and characters quickly, and you instead focus on the events that's happening and how it affects them. It was always said that you admire a hero for their attempts to claim victory more than their successes, at least according to Pixar. And in under 6 minutes, you see some of that come to fruition. Like with Lab of Carnage, through all these stakes, through all these action, the goal is always the same. Charlie wants to kick the football. And it's funny how something as simple as this can be drastically over-explained to the point of fitting into this surreal, over-the-top, this is the North Star-like world, but it still fits. Charlie wants to kick the football. And in spite of his attempts, in spite of everything, in spite of Linus helping him, he can't do it. Linus ultimately takes on Lucy himself, admitting that Charlie wasn't strong enough. Charlie still wants to try, but it's hopeless, and Linus throws Charlie out, and we see Linus die so he could live on. He trains as hard as he can for 3 years, and then we cut back to the present at the end of Borstar Season 1, where Charlie Brown is taken out by Garfield. And now we come full circle, because you realize that Lycan took a simple joke in the proper episode, where Charlie Brown is taken out in 5 seconds tops, and he gave a gag, character death, and its own art so you can actually sympathize with him dying. You feel the regret, the shame, the defeat. But when Charlie Brown gives his final energy to John, music swells, John holding Charlie's head, and that final line, "I was never destined for greatness." It hurts. If we're actually talking about the peak of Borstar, I think that goes in Season 2, Episode 3. It has some of the best digital art and the best writing. Nermal and John are... Nermal is a spirit after being killed by Calvin to revive Garfield. Just watch the whole thing, it's an hour long. Garfield's revived, and John and Nermal, as a stand, are trapped inside a jail cell. Wade from U.S. Acres threatens John, though Nermal, using his stand powers, tries to hurt Wade indirectly. Out of nowhere, John comes out of a cell to crush a brick that was sent careening towards Wade, one that could have easily killed him. He goes back to the cell and tells Wade to tend to his face, saying that he's not going anywhere. Nermal questions why he did what he did, and John says, translate from text-to-speech, "Not everyone is evil. Some are just misguided." This quote, combined with the art, the music, Chikai playing in the background, and Garfield showing genuine compassion towards being reunited with Arlene. Mere words can't really sum up how I feel about this, and maybe it's my fault for getting emotionally invested in something that was clearly made to be a shitpost. If Lycan didn't want people to care about it, he wouldn't have put so much effort into everything he made. I'm skipping a lot of details, but I hope you can see why I would be emotionally invested in something that looks so silly. And on some level, it is an epic told of fictional pre-existing characters, but that's okay. In spite of the premise, in spite of everything, in spite of Lycan himself deleting his account and feeling inadequate, feeling frustrated with what he made, he still had the passion enough to complete this project, and he ran with this absurd premise and crafted something people love and respect to this day. Lycan is not Borstar, he just created it. And if anything, I was most impressed with Lycan's mini story about Pearl, from Steven Universe. Unrestrained from the Borstar line, he was able to really go nuts, and I just admired so much about this. I love the rough, lineless art style at times, the lighting, the color usage, and Neil Young music that just brings it all together. There's so much emotional weight packed into something that is very, very short, like not even 15 minutes in total length. Granted, the story is much darker than something you could see from Steven Universe proper, and I understand how stories where characters do more adult things for the sake of being more mature can be annoying, but there's a sense of realism to it. Pearl acts like a person. She has emotions. We all have emotions. Steven Universe, of course, tackles some mature subject matter, but the same way that people praise the show proper for packing a surprising amount of weight and character development into a chapter of its story in only 15 minutes, Lycan Johns told a whole story with much more adult themes and just down-to-earth characters in 5 minutes. And it still hits close to home I want to say just like, but it still hits me in the heart. There's a lot of completely unrestrained and strange art out there on the internet. Stuff that's not like anything else. And it sometimes gets looked over because it's weird or cringy or people just don't want to understand it. Other times it seems immature to put so much energy into something that doesn't even have characters who aren't pre-existing. But as long as you have the passion to make something, you can make it awesome. Someone out there will love what you make. Lycan Johns used MS Paint and Flash to tell epic stories, and almost all the voices are text-to-speech. Laserbot had an idea of Tails getting trolled and became a meta-parody and genuine passion project full of shonen anime tropes at the same time. Coconut Buyer has been making YouTube videos since I was in elementary school, and yet he made a whole ass parody crossing over Neon Genesis Evangelion with Doug, and it's still amazing. The fact that these works continue to thrive and have people similarly inspired to do their own interpretations, animations, or tributes based on them shows that as long as you have an idea and you want to make it a reality, someone somewhere will resonate with it. There's nothing truly too absurd to make into a story, as long as you want to express yourself and believe that you can do it. And with that said, just go out there and create.